what I kind of want to talk to today is locks, right? So I've got a presentation about locks. We wanted to rhyme with socks. Locks was the one I got, right? So you're probably looking at me going, how did I get here, right? I'm wondering the same damn thing, right? And you're probably all going, what? What? Did you answer the phone when Mike called? I did, right? That's why I'm here. So I guess I need to screen phone calls better. But a little bit about me. Mike and I worked together for a number of years at 2 different organizations, one of them being Master Lock, right? That's why we have the screenshot there of me holding a Master Lock. So our idea was that Pat could come up here and talk a little bit about locks. So that's how Mike and I got familiar, and that's why I'm up here. So I first wanted to say, what are some of my favorite locks? As Mike and I were talking on the phone, I said, what's my favorite locks, right? The first one I came up with was Goldilocks, right? I started, well, why not Goldilocks? A great story of porridge and chairs and beds, right? It was a silly story, and she finally found her fit, right? Now, that wasn't the right kind of locks according to Mike, so I said, well, maybe it's the Sue locks, right? That's an engineering marvel. Who's ever been there? Anybody been up to the Sue locks? It's pretty neat, isn't it, right? So he didn't like that either, so I said, you know what, my wife and I went. We love Loch Ness. Who likes that, right? Anybody like Loch Ness and monsters and stuff, right? We didn't see any, right? It's a pretty small lake. It's just really long. There's no way there's anything living there. I'm a story breaker for you, right? So bear with me. But seriously, let's talk locks, right? And I've got a disclaimer that I wanted to just throw out, right? I'm by no means a lock expert, right? What you see, I learned from Wikipedia and just being at Master Lock, right? So this is more fun than anything else, right? And then my last one, you know, if you have questions about locks, hold those questions until I leave, right? And then ask Mike. Anyway, let's just a little bit of early history of locks, right? Locks have been around for 6,000 years, right? I looked it up. That's pretty interesting. The first metal locks appeared probably about the year 870, 900, somewhere in that area, right? When I went back to try to find things that are about that old, you know, I came across like Notre Dame, which was started in the year 1100 to 1200, so locks were older than even Notre Dame. I thought that was kind of interesting fact. It's suspected that the first key, the key for a lock, was invented by a guy named Theodorus of Samoris in the 6th century BC, right? And another fun fact is that the Romans are believed to be the first to use metal locks. Are we surprised? Probably not. So a little bit about more modern locks. I did a little bit of research and found that a guy named Robert Barron invented the lock level tumbler in 1778. It looked a lot like the picture you see on the screen, right? It was invented in England, right? And it's still used today, that model, at least an idea, still used in Europe and Africa and South America. They usually come in either 3 prongs or 5 prongs, similar to what you'd see in tumblers on keys modern today, right? The idea behind it was a nice key went in there, it moved the levers and moved the bolt in and out of a door. So it's kind of neat. From there, a guy named Jeremiah Chubb, right, invented a new lock that had a unique key, lock lever, and it was made in 1818, right? This lock would jam if people tried to pick it. Back in the day, that was kind of neat, right? The lock would totally jam. You would not be able to unlock it unless you had a special key, which nobody had except him, or if it was reset with the actual real key. So that was kind of a neat idea, right? He actually had a contest made at one point in time for somebody to try to pick it, and it remained unpicked for 3 months, right? Nobody ever won that contest, which I thought was kind of interesting. From there, a guy named Joseph Brahma, later in 1784, developed a cylindrical key with notches along it, right? And that was touted unpickable at the time. That lock remained unpickable for 67 years. I thought that was pretty interesting. Way back in 1784, unpickable for 67 years. It was the interesting fact is that once they went to like a World's Fair, right? They started a contest to see if somebody could pick it, and somebody actually did. It took them like 56 hours to actually pick that lock. This is the same one that Nathan Chubb made. The one that was made by Joseph looks similar, but the key was different, and it had ridges on it, right? So they were unique. And then last but not least here, right, Linus Yale invented the pin and tumbler, right? We all kind of see these today. These are the locks that you would work with today where the key slides in. There's pins in them, right, and it allows the tumbler to move. This lock is still widely used today. You'll see this all over the place in many kinds of devices. So I wanted to look a little bit about different styles of locks, right? And we want to talk through what's out there in the world today. But we have bicycle locks and combination locks, cylinder locks, and padlocks, right? Since Mike and I both worked at Master Lock, I went to that website to look at some pictures, right? But you can see there's the kind that are like laminated, right? A bunch of metal pieces together. The idea there that was made it nice and strong and made it harder for something to break it open. You probably saw the commercial in Super Bowl a long time ago where they shot a bullet right through it. The lock stayed together. It was a new invention back at that time. You also see on the screen like the gym locker tumbler one. We all use those in high school or junior high, right? And spin the tumbler to open the lock. We always remembered that we remember somebody else's combination. We always forgot our own. And then a bike lock as well. Those were much more sturdy, right? Easier to carry around and make your bike pretty secure. I wanted to talk a little bit about some modern analog lock vulnerabilities, right? We're all here talking about security and vulnerabilities, right? But when it comes to these type of locks, right, they're easy to pick. Realistically, I've read a bunch of articles, I've seen YouTubes, you probably have as well, right? A person with the right kind of pin and a little bit of training has no problem picking these locks, right? They're easy to cut. You take your bolt cutter, take it to the lock, especially if people buy the cheaper ones, they break right off. It's easy to lose your combination or your key, right? And then some of these actually have master keys as well. The pins on a 5-pin key, there's only so many combinations of what that pin can be that realistically you could find one that would work on a lock if you had enough of them around. So I want to talk a little bit more about more like a modern style, and these are the digital type of locks that are out there today, right? And there's probably a lot more, but these are the electromagnetic type locks, electronic locks for that matter, and then key card locks, right? So we see these every day when we're going to the office, right? Click the key card and actually get into a room and it unlocks it. You see a Bluetooth lock on the screen there. That's where you can actually unlock it with your phone, Bluetooth style. And then you also see some that have like punch codes on them and allow you to either unlock them with that or some other kind of device with proximity, right? We see these a lot around the organization. These typically cost more and they have a little more support to them, right? So I want to talk a little about the vulnerabilities related to these kind of locks, right? You guys deal with this stuff probably every day in the work you do. A lot of these devices are IoT devices, right? So they're connected and hackable, right? I'm sure you guys probably have broken into some of these with some of the testing and stuff you guys do today. Some of these typically will need power to work them, right? Some of the Bluetooth devices might sit idle for a number of years, right? And if they do, you try to go to it, it needs a battery to work it, and you're SOL, right? Some of them are also centrally managed by somebody, right? So that person could either steal the codes, give the codes away, get you access to some of these things based on social engineering, like we talked about, right, before with Greg, and then some other unauthorized access as well. And then last but not least, right, stealing a card, losing your card, right? If somebody takes your card from your car, they can get into your office and act like you. So there's probably a lot more. That's just what I thought of when I was doing the presentation. So then, the next question is, what's the future for smart locks, right? Some advanced biometrics probably are being done today, right? Integrated with the locks. Matter devices, right? We're reading more about Matter and integrating devices and locks into our homes, into our Alexas, into Googles, and that kind of stuff, right? That's happening today already. And then also integrating with things like 5G, 3G cellular communications and stuff like that, right? And again, I'm no expert, but I kind of want to turn over to the group. Who else can speculate on what else is out there that's coming around the lock for things like personal locks like we talk about? Anybody have any ideas? No? I didn't either, but I want to just end with one last thing, right? When doing my research, I found that this was my favorite lock. It's called the Drunk Man lock, right? That's pretty cool. I thought that too. I'm like, that's kind of a neat design. At first, I'm like, why do they call it the Drunk Man lock? I'm looking at it, right? You're drunk, you walk up with the key, and boom, you can just get that slot. It makes the key go right down to the lock and makes it easy to get into, right? So I thought that was kind of neat. Anyway, that's it for my presentation. Thanks for listening about locks. Thanks, everyone.